Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I want to talk to you about building a Christian ministry and about winning souls. As you have heard, the internet, yes, and by the way, we are going to go on continue listening to Bill Schneebelen and the Illuminati here in just a minute. But as you have heard, the internet is really not a reliable place to build a Christian ministry. YouTube has closed many Christian ministry channels just because they were Christian. So we don't want to have to spend years building a YouTube ministry only to have it killed at their discretion. So we want to ensure Prophecy Club recordings continue. So we're in the process of pulling all pirated Prophecy Club recordings from the internet every place, and that's more than just YouTube. And for those of you that may have posted pirated Prophecy Club videos, yes, we understand your heart was to win souls, but in the long run, it hurts our ministry, and we ask you to pull those. It destroys our soul-winning model. Now, let me explain. Here's how it worked. Prophecy Club started in 1993. In those days, God laid on my heart how to do the ministry. We would pay for the airfare, the sleeping, and the meeting room expenses, and then we would take up the offering for a guest speaker. We were sponsoring from 1 to 3 new speakers, new videos each month, which is making about 15 to 20 new recordings a year. We organized and we paid for these speakers to be on speaking tours all across America. At one time, we were holding about 40 meetings a month, so that's about 400 meetings a year. We offered the video of the speaker to cover our expenses, and it was successful. Matter of fact, Prophecy Club grew to be on 80 radio stations, 25 TV stations, and at one time we were the number 2 prophecy ministry in America. Then YouTube and iPods came along and just about killed it. The iPod meant that people no longer listened to Christian radio stations, but instead just played their purchased music. YouTube meant that our video sales were no longer necessary because they could watch them for free on YouTube. Well, today, we're on one radio station, no TV stations, with only an occasional meeting in Plano, Texas. And I blame it on iPods and YouTube. Our conclusion is that YouTube and iPods have almost killed your Prophecy Club. Here's the story. From 1994 to 2000, we presented about 7,000 new converted souls and over 20,000 rededicated souls to the Lord, as measured by the people attending a meeting, physically standing and physically professing Jesus as Lord in a meeting. YouTube, iPod, in our observation, have hurt soul winning and almost killed your Prophecy Club. Over the last 3 years, instead of making what would have been 60 new videos, we've only made 15. Instead of some 1,200 meetings, we've only had 15 because we don't have the financing for the expensive meetings on the road. Instead of leading what would have been the usual 4,000 souls to the Lord over that time, probably less than 10 have been saved. Now, not saying that no one has received Jesus by iPods and YouTube, but since the Bible says they have to confess with their mouth and believe in their heart that Jesus is the Christ, they probably haven't done that just from watching YouTube or listening. So here's the good news. We have just launched WatchProphecyClub.com, and this will once again cause lifeblood financing to flow into Prophecy Club, allowing us to expand and reach people once again. We just launched it, WatchProphecyClub.com. This one is not associated with the people that can turn it off. This one will allow everyone continued access to our recordings and some that you didn't used to have access to. We'll talk about that more in a week or so. WatchProphecyClub.com will allow you to watch Prophecy Club titles without interruption. Currently, we have 160 titles offered, and in a week or so, we're going to have over 300 titles up and available. So even if you have some 100 DVDs, I'm telling you that you're about to be able to watch over 300, many of them you have never seen, you've never even heard of. It's going to be really good. Now, most people would agree that if we were to give you access to 300 of our titles that we normally offered for $30 each, most people would agree that'd be worth $100 a month or maybe even $50. But at an introductory rate. We're, at least for a limited time, offering it for $20 a month recurring monthly subscription, or a 1-year subscription for $200. Obviously, that's a better deal because there's no contract. You can cancel at any time. But as we go up in the price, and we will, you're going to be locked in. So $200 a year is really the best deal, a yearly subscription that will lock in your rate. That way, when we do go up, you don't go up. WatchProphecyClub.com. Yes, we are still in the process of building Watchman's Trumpet. That is going to be a video email program where you can log in and pre-purchase credits and email gift viewings of Prophecy Club titles to your friends. I think that one is going to go around the globe. That's something that is going to be for your soul winning, to build your book of works. Yes, you can still send them over to WatchProphecyClub.com. However, as you know, people are sometimes skeptical about watching a recording on Bible prophecy from anybody. So you increase the probability of getting them to watch it by saying, hey, I already paid for this. This is a gift recording, and I ask you to watch it. Click here. It's free. Okay, that's a good deal. Now, we're not certain if WatchProphecyClub.com and Watchman's Trumpet is going to be combined or separate or what's going to happen there. But for right now, let me just say Watch Prophecy Club is live. You can log in, begin watching over 160 titles immediately. Just put your credit card in and sign up for at least a $20 monthly recurring subscription. But the best deal, of course, is $200 for a whole year. That way, your amount is locked in even when we go up. But a registration on WatchProphecyClub.com is a vote for souls, brothers and sisters. It's a vote for new recordings and speakers. Since we now offer our recordings at WatchProphecyClub.com, there is no need for the pirated free YouTube videos. So we're getting those all pulled off. WatchProphecyClub.com will bring in needed financing back to Prophecy Club to have more guests, to make more recordings, to win more souls, to warn more people. And we still plan to complete Watchman's Trumpet. It's also going to help us to get my book out, The Secret Door of Prophecy, to millions of people, which I believe is going to fill sports stadiums. I believe it's going to be a book powerful enough to call people out of those nosebleed seats at a sports stadium to come down onto the field, falling on their face, giving their heart to Jesus. A registration at WatchProphecyClub.com is a vote for souls, new recordings, speakers, and to build the kingdom of God. All right, let's go on over now and continue listening to Bill Schnoebelen. He's the author of 8 books. He was a Satanic and Voodoo high priest, a second-degree member of the Church of Satan, a New Age guru, an occultist, a channeler, and 90th-degree Mason, a Knight Templar, a member of the Illuminati. He's taught astrology, tarot cards, astral projection. He is a doctor of naturopathy and a wonderful guy. And yes, he really is, I believe, telling the truth to what he's saying. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt for just a minute because we're going to make Exposing the Illuminati from Within DVD available. Normally a gift of $50, but today a gift of just $20. But you do have to call 785-266-1112 to get that deal. That's 785-266-1112. 785-266-1112. Now let's go on over and continue listening to Bill Schnoebelen in Exposing the Illuminati from Within.
And you can start seeing spiritual light everywhere, like auras and stuff like that. That's what illumination is. Then you get to the third stage. And then, at that point, you get into conversation. This is communion with the mighty dead. My, don't that sound fun? You know, you can talk to Plato. You can talk to Nero. You can talk to Aristotle. My, you can even talk to Jesus. Communion with the mighty dead. And these people come into you. They possess you. And the teaching is, the metaphor that I was taught, it's like, you know when you buy a new pair of shoes, and even no matter how well they fit, you kind of got to wear them a while to break them in, you know? Well, it's like that with our souls. That these high-level beings, these ascended masters, these great archons of the universe come into you, and at first we're tight like a new shoe, and gradually they push us, they whatever, I don't know what they do, but anyhow, and sometimes it's literally they push us, and you gradually become more enlightened. Your consciousness is expanded. You become more and more enlightened. And I'll tell you a true story about this that happened to me. When I was going through some of this stuff, I had a very high-level spirit guide, Doctor of Divinity, come into me, because I was also a trance medium. And this was a very high-level being, supposedly. And I was laying there, with my wife, because she was like taking notes and making sure I didn't freak out while I was in this trance state. And all of a sudden, I started breathing real fast, and my face started getting really red, and I was sweating, and I started actually growing physically. My body, I don't know if you ever remember that old TV show, The Incredible Hulk, where he'd start expanding and his shirt would rip. Well, I was wearing this, I felt so bad after the fact. My wife had made this beautiful velvet purple robe for me. And I just ripped out of it. It was like I hulked out. I swelled up like a tick. And my eyes were just turning red, and they looked like they were going to pop out of their sockets. And she was freaking. She didn't know what was going on. It was this high-level guide, coming into me. But by the time that was over, I had streaks of gray all through my hair. And later on, these wonderful spirit guides told me, oh, well, that experience aged him 5 years. Now he'll die 5 years before his time. Gee, thanks, fella. I mean, I don't receive that anymore in the name of Yahshua, but, that's how that's supposed to happen. After that, I was much more open to the awesome blandishments of the ascended masters. Well, then the next stage is Congress. And no, I don't mean the branch of government. This is a fancy word for sexual introitus, intercourse, whatever. Except you're doing it with the dead. And I don't mean with corpses. That would be too kinky even for me. No, it means that these beings come down and they have relations with you, to put it delicately. And, when that happens, what does the Bible say? You become one flesh. And so you're becoming one, and I didn't understand this at the time, you're becoming one with a fallen angel. You're becoming one with a celestial being. And I was actually, the ultimate of this is I was actually, a satanic wedding was performed, where I was married to the arch-goddess Lilith. And she actually came down, and how many of you heard of Lilith? She is a very nasty, very ancient, demoness, strongman type being. Maybe I should say strong woman. I don't want to be sexist. Anyway, and in rabbinical legend, she was the first wife of Adam. And he made her at the same time as he made Adam. Same way, out of the dust of the earth. But she wouldn't submit to Adam. Specifically, she wanted to be on top, to put it delicately. And Adam didn't like that. And he says, I don't like this woman. I want a divorce. And so Yahweh threw her out of the garden and figured he'd make a more compliant partner, so he made Eve out of the rib. You all know that story. Well, anyhow, the story is that Lilith was pregnant by Adam. And she was enraged at having been thrown out of this wonderful place in this bleak land outside of the garden's precincts. And when she had the baby, she was on the banks of the Euphrates River, and she took the baby and dashed its brains out on the rocks, just to spite Adam and to spite the Almighty. And out of the baby's brains came all the demons in the universe. And so she's regarded as the mother of all demons, and she's regarded as the patron saint of crib death and abortion, sudden infant death syndrome. In ancient times, the Jewish people, if they were superstitious, even to this day, some of them do this, when they have a new baby, they won't let anybody know what the baby's real name is, because if they do, they're afraid Lilith will come and kill it. And they put a plaque over the crib that says Sanvi, Sansanvi, Samengalef. And these are supposedly the names of 3 very powerful angels that the Almighty assigned to protect babies from Lilith. And they believe by doing this that they will protect their baby from dying like sudden infant death syndrome or whatever. So, I got to marry this creature. I'll tell you, that was one heck of a honeymoon. Anyway, the ultimate goal, which fortunately I never got to, is what is called union. And that's when you've done so much of these weird things, so much of this congress with demons, so much of this succubus. Succubus is a sexual spirit, a female nature, and incubus is a sexual spirit of a male nature that comes to you and assaults you in the night. I was well on my way to being totally insane. But what happens in the final state, the fifth stage, is your total consciousness is eclipsed by the demonic. There ain't nothing left, just the demons. And you're just totally given over to evil. In deliverance, such a person is called perfectly possessed, quote unquote, that's the term. Although there's nothing perfect about it. What that means is, though, that the person's just so surrendered. I mean, I can remember doing this, and I'm so ashamed of it. I would get down on my knees and beg more demons to come into me, That's how bad, because it was a high. Whenever a new demon would come into me, it was like a real rush. More power, more wisdom. The two blandishments of the occult, power and wisdom. So anyhow, this explains, this last couple of stages, why there is such a level of unanimity among high-level members of the conspiracy. Because people always make jokes, when you talk about this stuff. Conspiracy was, the government can't keep secrets. Nobody can keep these kind of secrets. It's not possible, But what they don't realize is what happens at that stage, at the fourth and fifth level, is you have these demons within you. And they can read your thoughts. They're living in there, They got a whole apartment house set up there. There's probably, 1,500 of them. And anyway, if you even start thinking of betraying some secrets, pain, they know just where the pain centers are in the brain. And they can give you pain like you would not even imagine. I mean, forget childbirth, forget kidney stones, forget, having a white-hot poker run through your hand. It's like nothing compared to this. And so they don't even get to the point where they pick up the phone to call the New York Times and rat out the conspiracy. Either they die of a brain hemorrhage or they behave themselves, one of the two. So that's why there's such unanimity. And the only way you can get out of this is through him. Because, we've seen this. We've actually seen people who were in this group come to us for deliverance, and until we started seriously praying, you could actually, blood would start coming out of their ears. Their eyes would start bleeding. Their face would just turn beet red. It's like they were hemorrhaging all over their bodies because the demons inside of them were fighting. And we would pray and ask the Almighty to stop that, and it would. Gee, what a surprise. Prayer works. Hallelujah. Because greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world. And I don't want any of what I'm saying here today to scare you guys. Because if He can save me out of all this stuff, that's how awesome He is. But this also goes a long way to explain some of the monstrosities we see in human history. How could Hitler do the things he did? A lot of people agree, looking at him, he was a combination of being totally demon-possessed and also very strung out on, believe it or not, methamphetamine. Hitler was a meth addict. So that's why you don't want to let your kids get into that stuff. You don't want them, acting like Hitler. Why Pol Pot? Why Stalin? Why all of these monsters that we've seen down through the last 500 years? People that just can kill 50 million people at the drop of a hat, like Stalin did, or Mao Zedong, any of these people. It's because they are at this level that there is no vestige of conscience, no vestige of humanity. Just like you would think nothing of stepping on a mosquito or an ant, they would think nothing of wiping out Somalia. It's just that simple. So, there's engineered famines, there's engineered plagues, all these different things are being caused by this group. That's how nasty they are. So anyway, unfortunately it doesn't get any better. Satan's virus and the cult of the child. Masonry's beginnings in occult philosophy are documented by me and others elsewhere. But there's something about the lodge which has always attracted magicians, and if anything, this has gotten worse in the last couple of centuries. There's always been this profound link between Masons and the occult. I mentioned how these rich guys, these noblemen, these idle philosopher types, occultist types started coming into Masonry. Well, here are three of the most famous. Francis Bacon. Some of you may have heard of him. He's the guy that wrote The New Atlantis, and his goal was to have America become an occult theocracy, pure and simple. Another one, a little bit later, was the famous antiquarian Elias Ashmole. Both gentlemen are English, and Ashmole is a very famous antiquarian. Two of them were the two most famous early speculative Masons who were also deeply involved in the occult. And then finally we sail across the pond to America to our probably most celebrated Mason, Albert Pike. Albert Pike was a worshiper of Ahura Mazda, which is the Persian god of light. He was very much into Zoroastrianism, which is the Persian religion, very much into Lucifer worship. He was also the highest ranking Mason in America of his day. He was a Confederate war general who was nearly tried for crimes, war crimes, during his tenure as a general in the Confederate Army. He also was the co-founder, along with Nathan Bedford Forrest, of the Ku Klux Klan, which started out as a Masonic auxiliary body. So this guy, and yet this guy is also the only Confederate general to have a monument in Washington, D.C. So that shows, even though the guy was a racist to the core, he was a war criminal, not just in the sense that the normal Confederate officers, you know, obviously they were fighting in a war, but this guy did atrocities and lost his commission in the Confederate Army because of it. But yet he still has a giant statue in Washington, D.C. He's also the only Confederate general to be buried in Washington, D.C. He's interred in the House of the Temple. And he's the one who made the famous statement, yes, Lucifer is God, but unfortunately Adonai, quote unquote, is also God. See, that's dualism. That's Persian Zoroastrianism. There's two equal forces, a god of light and a god of darkness. That's what he believed. The historical list of occultists and witches in the 20th century reads like a who of the occult. These people are all Masons. Arthur Rudyard Waite, he was the co-founder of the Golden... Oh, I'm sorry, no. He was a member of the Golden Dawn. Arthur Rudyard Waite was a Golden Dawn member and wrote several important works on Masonry. He also wrote the wonderful book, Black Magic and Pacts, How to Sell Your Soul to the Devil. Dr. Wynne Westcott and S.L. McGregor Mathers were the co-founders of the Golden Dawn Order, which was the consummate English-speaking occult society of the 19th century. Aleister Crowley was, of course, a very famous member of the Golden Dawn, who later on became infamous in his own right, and he used to say that an elephant would creak under the weight of all the Masonic honors I would wear if I wore all of the medals and banners and sashes that I'm entitled to wear. Dr. Gerard Oncos, the world's greatest living authority at the time of the tarot cards, known by the name of Pappas. His son initiated me into Illuminism. Dr. Theodore Royce, the founder of the OTO, the Ordo of Oriental Templars. Notice that word again, Templars, which was an occult black magic, sex magic society. Helena Blavatsky, the founder of the Theosophical Society. Annie Besant and Alice Bailey. You might say, wait a minute, these are women. I didn't think women could be Masons. Well, they can if you're an occultist. There's a branch of Masonry to which both my wife and I joined from the 1700s, came out of the French Revolutionary period. It was called Les Droits Humains, which in French means human rights. And it's also known in America as co-Masonry. And it equally admits both men and women to all the degrees of Masonry. So you'll find to this very day, most female high-level theosophists are also co-Masons. Bishop Leadbeater, a very prominent theosophist. Manly P. Hall, who is regarded as the most honored Mason of the 20th century. Gerald B. Gardner, who's the guy that brought witchcraft out of the closet in 1950s England. And Alex Sanders, who is known as the King of the Witches. All of these people were high-level Masons. And if you're watching this video, or if you're sitting here right now, and you're a Mason, I want to put it to you that you're linked to these kind of people. Because I knew many witches in my day as well, because these are all people from the first half of the 20th century, for the most part, who were witches. And you're linked to them. And it says in Corinthians, we are not to be linked together with unbelievers. And when you are kneeling at that altar and making that oath that I discussed a few minutes ago, you have a cable tow, a rope around your neck, and you're blindfolded. After you've had this experience where your blindfold is removed, you see the light and all this, the Master says, remove the cable tow from around our brother's neck, because he is now bound by a much stronger tie to the fraternity. See, you're spiritually linked to all these creepy people. whether you like it or not. And you need to get out of that if you're a Mason. That's one of the first things that Yahweh showed me after I got born again, is I need to flee the lodge. Okay, there's a real reason for this strong link between Masonry and the occult, and that's because there's a concealed hierarchy within the lodge itself and within the Illuminati group. And it's there in plain sight, right on the Great Seal of the United States. I'm sure many of you have heard talks about the various Masonic and occult symbols on the front part and the obverse side, the reverse side of the Great Seal. There you see it. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole long thing about this, but what I do want you to understand is you'll notice the pyramid is incomplete. You see that it only goes up so high, and then hovering over it, there's this all-seeing eye, doohickey, the eye in the triangle and everything. Let me explain something. That ain't God. That is the God of the lodge. That's Lucifer. That's actually a representation of the eye of Horus. And it's hovering over the Great Pyramid, which is not really a pyramid, it's a trapezoid. Remember the trapezoid from way back in the beginning of this talk? A trapezoid is what? It's an unfinished pyramid. Now, what's a pyramid? A pyramid is a triangular structure that's a representation of the Trinity. See, this is an expression of Lucifer wanting to come down and take over the position of the Almighty. That's what he's wanted to do from the beginning, Isaiah 14, you know. So, concealed in this, though, see, the frustrum is what a trapezoid is called in architecture. It's called a frustrum. And this is the most sacred geometrical form in Satanism. And there it is on our dollar bill. There it is on the reverse of the Great Seal. The trapezoid appears frequently in Freemasonry. And that's because it's a symbol of the lack of, they think it means the lack of the Almighty. And so they worship it. And there's a belief within Satanism, which I have found to be true, that essentially the geometric space, which is most conducive to demonic presence, is a trapezoidal shaped building. Like, for example, a classical haunted house.
And unfortunately, I've got to break in right there, but I do encourage you, go to watchprophecyclub.com. It's now live, watchprophecyclub.com. You can sign up, $20 a month, recurring monthly subscription, and watch now over 160 titles, and within a few weeks, over 300 different Prophecy Club titles. All for a gift of $20 a month or $20 a year. Yes, we do know that the gift amount is going to be increasing, but you can lock it in by going ahead and getting a one-year gift of $200, recurring yearly subscription, and lock in the amount. You can watch all of the Prophecy Club DVDs, 160 titles now, eventually to 300 here in the next few weeks. All of them, anytime you want, for a gift as low as $20 a month. Yes, it's going to go up, but at least $20 a month. That's the introductory offer, or $200 a year recurring yearly subscription. WatchProphecyClub.com. WatchProphecyClub.com. I think it is the best deal I've ever seen. Yes, we're still looking for gifts to help us get Watchman's Trumpet online. That's a different video email program. But right now, WatchProphecyClub.com is live online. You can immediately start watching for a gift of $20 or more. Oh, by the way, you can cancel within 3 days, or actually you can cancel anytime you want to. $20 a month, recurring monthly subscription. Now watch over 160 titles, eventually over 300 Prophecy Club titles. Wow, what a deal. WatchProphecyClub.com. WatchProphecyClub.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless.